welcome to the shed, to Fringe Review's shed, which is not a very, very large building like Fringe Central, which is the headquarters of the Edinburgh Fringe during the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. It's our little headquarters, which is literally the shed at the bottom of my garden in Brighton. And this little broadcast here is just about a very picky, but I'd say very important aspect of Fringe theatre comedy show making. And it's a kind of Hamlet question. It's to mic or not to mic, that is the question. By mic I mean microphone. And what I want to share here is really the question about what kind of miking up you need to do for your show, and how so many shows have suffered in Edinburgh because they got that decision wrong. The first thing to say is don't become a passive victim of whatever sound system is in your venue. Some venues are much better served with resources, budget and technical know-how, expertise than others, and you may find yourself in a venue where the microphones that they've got are not great, they're too crackly, they don't work properly, and you just may have to accept that you need to bring your own tech in and get it right, and make that decision very, very quickly. Some shows that have fallen victim to bad technology in some venues have regretted it, and so make that decision quickly. On the assumption that there is decent technology in your venue, well, without getting too geeky about it, of course we've got a bunch of choices. Comedians, you can use your handheld microphone, and there's a lot of comedy to be had from the mic and the microphone stand, and I'll leave all of that to you. But what works less well is a microphone that really makes you sound like you're coming through a toilet U-bend. And really, if that sound system doesn't give you enough oomph to reach the back properly, you might want to consider as well changing the sound yourself and bringing your own sound system in. Sometimes it's simply because it's the legacy from a previous show, or it could be a technician that doesn't quite know the sound system because they've literally just stepped in at the last minute, it's their shift, and you might just in a charming way need to get to the back, and if you don't know how to do it, have a colleague with you who can just show them how to get that sound right. But comedians, cabaret singers, anybody using handheld mics, don't become a victim or a passive victim of microphones and sound systems that don't work. Claim it quickly. You can practice that too. You can practice that now if you're going to do any other gigs. If you are a comedian who's used to walking into a venue and just picking the microphone up, I think the risk is too big in Edinburgh if you're going to do 30 days. Certainly you can get down the learning curve quickly on a couple of preview nights, but if you can do a sound check, and if you can get to the sound box and show a technician exactly what kind of sound you need, then do it. Do it charmingly, do it with warmth if you can. You don't want to go to war with them, but make sure the sound suits your kind of voice, your kind of show. Now in theatre, particularly around things like musicals, what we sometimes have is a mix of those microphones, and what we also have are the classic lapel mics, quite a lot of which involve you putting a little box with some sort of antenna in your pocket or placed around you. Some of you will have one that goes behind the ear and there's a little microphone here. Those things get very, very battered during the Fringe. They can be being used quite a lot. Some of them have just come from another Fringe or another venue, and again they may not all work properly, and that can make a huge difference to your show. So for any tech, please don't assume that that technology is right and they're going to work every time. So do check. Ask them if they've got spares, check that the spares work, and if they don't, again, be prepared to bring one or two of your own or borrow them or rent them if that's vital to your show. The final bit of this is that just some venues, you've been used to miking yourself up, you're now in a Fringe venue and the microphones aren't needed, and you haven't really practiced a show without microphones, and that can be quite tough, but you need to be prepared to get that sound volume down a bit. And you may need to really adjust from previous venues you've been in, and some shows I've seen have done really well where they've decided either not to mic up, or more rarely, but actually they've had to mic up, and by miking up we've got clarity and we can hear them, and it's not too interfering if it's done well. So just be prepared to go into a Fringe venue that may not be your ideal venue and make some tough, clear choices about whether to mic or not to mic. I'd say normally if you're a mic'd up show elsewhere, you want to be a mic'd up show in Edinburgh, and you want to replicate as closely as possible to what you've had before in the new venue, and not be being shocked by different technology. Find out in advance if you can what that technology is, but be prepared to negotiate using your own if that's possible. I wouldn't shift platform. Another disaster that I've often seen is where somebody has ended up using someone else's laptop for a projection, or even worse, shift from a Mac to a PC, and it's just spelled disaster. So to mic or not to mic is a big question to ask, and if you are going to mic, it's what kind of mic to mic or not to mic as well. You may need to shift technology. Microphones in Edinburgh, I've seen shows really collapse on those preview nights. I don't want to scare you, but I do want to scare you, because I want your show to succeed.